This is Nathan Fantasy Football League Updates. Today, we reveal the Week 5 results and get you the Week 6 predictions. All that and more next. Nathan, Fantasy Football League Updates, welcome back. We are here with our Week 5 recap and Week 6 predictions. Week 5 was full of ups and downs for different teams, for my team as well, but overall a 3-2 prediction week for myself. So again, not as great as how we started, but we're still above 500. We're getting more games right than wrong, but let's get you real quick that Week 5 recap. And we will start with honestly one of the greatest games of the week. And it was the Cave Shrimp against the Bunnies. This one came down to Monday Night Football. And the Bunnies and the Cave Shrimp went back and forth. But it would be the Cave Shrimp pulling it out at the end in a 5-point victory, 140 to 136.5. Huge win for the Cave Shrimp. And the man to dedicate it to, Kareem Hunt. He got 18 fantasy points in Monday Night Football, which was enough to topple the deficit, the 13-point deficit that the Cave Shrimp had. Garrett Wilson chipped in 29. Justin Fields at 15 was huge. And then the downsides, though, well, the upside again, Josh Jacobs finally got into the end zone. Can we see more of that? Green Bay, he got 16 fantasy points this week. The downside, though, Deebo Samuel with 3 fantasy points, and Brock Purdy's 13 wasn't too ideal. 2 interceptions in there makes a big difference for Brock Purdy. Big misses off the bench would be Dak Prescott with 16, would have been better than starting Brock Purdy, but nonetheless, the Cave Shrimp get a huge win. On the other side, the Bay City Bunnies get a good performance from CJ Stroud, 15, 21 from Trevor Lawrence, 16 from Derek Jones, but Aaron Jones on the downside gets you 6 and gets injured. You did get 19 from Zay Flowers, but only 2 from David Njoku. And Kami Fairburn, 16 fantasy points. Pretty good for a kicker. Big misses off the bench. 12 points from Matt Stafford. Not really a miss. Not seeing any other misses. So, just a tough week in general for the Bunnies as they fall to 3-2. And the Cave Shrimp stay in the playoff hunt as they improve to 2-3. Next matchup, a high-scoring one. Both teams scored above 150. How about both of these teams being 2 of the top scorers of the week? One of them had to walk away with a loss. Well, it was the Iguanas walking away with the losses. They fall to the Zestmeisters 183 to 168. That's back-to-back monster point weeks for the Zestmeisters. 33 from Lamar, 34 from Kirko Chains led the way. George Kittle getting you 20 and Chuba Hubbard adding 17. Nico Collins 15, but news just in, he's hitting the IR, so a big loss for the Zestmeisters. Only 5 from George Pickens, and Jordan Mason only got you 8. How about Younghoe Koo, though? 15 fantasy points. Commanders defense 14. Big misses off the bench. Tutu Atwell with 12 was technically better than George Pickens, but other than that, no big misses for the Zestmeisters. They are one of the hottest teams right now in the league. On the other side of things, the Iguanas, well, Joe Burrow, 33 fantasy points, 26 from Joe Flacco, 23 from the rookie Brock Bowers, some big numbers, but CeeDee Lamb only getting you 11 was pretty rough, and 7 from Jerome Ford. Tyreek Hill is still not Tyreek Hill, 12 fantasy points for him. Moody goes down with an injury, and the big misses off the bench that would have made a difference. Travis.
Trey Sermon, 18 fantasy points. 19 for Rico Dowdle, 29 from T. Higgins, and 22 from Brandon Ayuk. So we have our more self of a game if CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, Tyreek Hill doesn't play, and even Michael Pittman doesn't play this week, and Jerome Ford. So some big crucial misses off there for the Iguanas. They still put up 168, but in a losing effort.
Our third matchup saw the Brisbane Bay Bandicoots take down the Guantanamo Bay Flying Squirrels 174 to 135. All Bandicoots as they get 22 from Gino, 15 from Jordan Love, 41 from the top scorer of the week, Jamar Chase. Huge game for Jamar as he really was going off. Kyron got you 15, and then 20 from DeAndre Swift, and an unlikely hero, 15 from the Denver Broncos defense. That's crazy. Big miss off the bench was 24 points for Kyler Murray, and really you'd say 13 from Jacoby Myers, but it wasn't needed as Jamar Chase did it all himself, 41 fantasy points. For the Flying Squirrels, Caleb Williams looked good, 23 fantasy points, 24 for Tucker Kraft, your tight end, and 11 from Chris Godwin, 14 from James Conner, and 16 from Chase Brown. Big misses, though, Deshaun Watson, 8, -4 from the Colts defense. Big misses off the bench, 18 from Rashid Shaheed. We'll see if we see him in Week 6 in a crucial matchup for the Flying Squirrels. So, 2 more matchups to go. Our next one, arguably the closest matchup of the week, as the Michigan Avengers squeak by the Grand Rapids Groundhogs 125 to 124. A real close one, a nail biter. Jaden Daniels for the Groundhogs got you 19, really started the push. James Cook got you 17. Travis Kelce did his best to get you into this, 16 fantasy points, 19 from Ramondre Stevenson, and 18 from the Vikings defense. Big misses, Sam Darnold, really bad this week with 4, 2 from Devon Achane, possible concussion. Marvin Harrison, only 5. Big misses off the bench, 15 for Kyle Pitts, 13 for Allen Lazard, and 31 from Money Moody, and 16 from Wan'Dale Robinson. For the other side, the Michigan Avengers, Patrick Mahomes by no means scored a lot of fantasy points, but he holds off Travis Kelce. He scores 13. Tell me when we are going to see Patrick Mahomes score over 20, though, because he has not looked good in the fantasy prospect. 13 for him. Rodgers was terrible with 11. Mike Evans, though, 23, and 27 from DJ Moore. Helped enough to get you a 1-point win. Breece Hall was bad this week with 6. DK was 7. Cole Kmet with 8. Very bad. And your cheat code, Brandon Aubrey, only got you 9. Big misses off the bench. Well, there were none. Just a down week for the Avengers, but they do manage to improve to 4-1. The Grand Rapids Groundhogs, though, fall in a heartbreaker to 1-4. Final matchup, and this was the game of the week. I said it'd be low scoring, and boy, was it. 133 to 118 finish in favor of the Rocky River Rough Riders as they defeat the Empire Strikes Back. And they defeat them somewhat handily as they improve to 3-2. Empire fall to 1-4. The mistake happened for the Empire leaving in a bye week player. Jared Goff was left in when he had Jacoby Brissett on the bench. It would have been 7 points. Wouldn't have made a difference. Still would have fallen by 8, but still doesn't look good on the coaching resume. But Baker Mayfield got you 23. 23 from Brian Thomas Jr., 11 from the Jets defense. Big misses, though. Dalton Kincaid with 5. Najee Harris with 9. I mean, Travis Etienne still not looking great. Only 12 fantasy points. And Matt Prater, your kicker, with a big fat 0. Josh Downs on your bench scored 15. So that is the big miss for the Empire. On the other side of things, the Rough Riders, not another great performance from Josh Allen, only 14. But Drake London really was the saving grace. He got you 33 fantasy points. You got 16 from Javonte Williams and 13 from Jake Ferguson. Big misses, Gardner Minshew with 7. 9 from Rachaad White. 2 from Jerry Jeudy. And the big miss off the bench was Raheem Mostert, back off injury with 11 fantasy points. Other than that, just a tough, gritty win for the Rocky River Rough Riders. They improved to 3-2 after a 133 to 118 victory. So those are our Week 5 recaps. Let's quick spin it over to my Week 6 predictions. A big week for a lot of teams here. Week 6 predictions. This is a big week. A lot of perfectly well-timed matchups with a lot of teams at about similar levels duking it out. So some big spots for some teams to either get their name back into the playoff side of things or teams to really start falling off and really having to play catch up. And the leaders in the clubhouse really defining themselves. Let's get into my week 6 predictions. And we will start with a relatively good matchup between the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp and the Guantanamo Bay Flying Squirrels. Both teams desperately need wins. The Flying Squirrels more than the Cave Shrimp, who sit at 2-3. Cave Shrimp the Flying Squirrels 1-4. So this week, what's it going to take to get it done? Well, the Cave Shrimp roll out Justin Fields and Brock Purdy for the time being. Like both quarterbacks matchups, I think they have some big weeks. Jonathan Taylor, if healthy, is going to be a big part of this victory if the Cave Shrimp want it, if they can get it. But he's going to need to play healthy, and he'll have a big week. Josh Jacobs plays consistent ball. Garrett Wilson really starts to turn it up. No Robert Saleh now in the building. Well, Aaron Rodgers show, and he's going to get it to Garrett Wilson. Turning point player, Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel needs to have a big week. After that injury and that early return, he has not looked like himself against the Patriots. And then last week against the Cardinals, need a better week. Do I think he gets it? No. I think he'll be serviceable at best. And then J-Mo and McBride. McBride will play serviceable. J-Mo sliding at the flex. Last time the Cave Shrimp started him, things didn't go great. We'll see if this week he continues playing consistent. And the other things for the Flying Squirrels, quarterback play is going to have a rough week. Caleb Williams, Deshaun Watson are going to struggle. James Conner, once again, as always, plays serviceable. Your turning point player, Chase Brown of the Bengals, I think he plays all right. He's got a favorable matchup this week, and I think he finds success in the end zone. Your wide receiving core, St. Brown and Diggs, pretty solid games from them. Dallas Goedert plays serviceable, and a new player in the lineup, Rashid Shaheed. He's had some pretty big weeks. You play the risk of high risk, high reward, or high risk, low reward with Shaheed. I think high reward this week, big week for Shaheed against the Bucs. But let's get you my prediction. Cave Shrimp Flying Squirrels in a 10+ point spread. Give me the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp to win 2 in a row and improve to 3-3. Just more pieces, better matchup. I think if Jonathan Taylor plays, that's going to be huge. I think Justin Fields has a monster game against Las Vegas, even with Russell Wilson healthy. Now we move on. Second matchup. It's two teams at 1-4. Both these teams really need a win to see if they can jumpstart their season. It's the Empire taking on the Groundhogs. Should be a really fun matchup. And I'm very interested to see how this plays out. Some bye week affecting this. The Empire, obviously, last week played a bye week player. This week he's back. Jared Goff plays serviceable against the Dallas Cowboys. Baker Mayfield, though, continues to shine against the New Orleans Saints. Saquon Barkley back in. He plays great. ETN, serviceable. And then Brian Thomas Jr. continues to have a breakout fantasy wide receiver rookie campaign. And your turning point player, Tank Dell. No Nico Collins. It's only Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs benefits more than Dell, but Dell definitely benefits now as the wide receiver 2 in Houston. He plays serviceable, but I think week 1 of him finally being that number 2 guy, I think he's a little disappointing. Kincaid, Robinson Jr. plays serviceable. Not much else to say for the Empire. On the other side of things, the Grand Rapids Groundhogs, Jaden Daniels doesn't have that 20+ point performance against a really good Ravens defense, but still, he's hovering near that range, has a pretty solid week. And then we're instantly your turning point player. It's Andy Dalton. The Red Rocket is starting this week for the Grand Rapids Groundhogs. We'll see how he plays. It's going to be very interesting. I could see him getting pulled at halftime if things aren't getting good and Bryce Young takes over again. But give me Andy Dalton to play very, very meh. Not at a very good fantasy value. He'll get you by. It's better than starting a bye week player. Your running backs, no Devon Achane, probably out with a concussion or something worse. So Stevenson steps up and plays serviceable. Cook plays about that 14-15 point range. Your wide receivers this week, I don't know if I feel strongly of them. Harrison Jr. has a tough matchup. I don't think he thrives too well. Darnell Mooney, though, he's starting after a big week. I think he continues that momentum and plays serviceable. Kyle Pitts has to slide in for the bye week. Kelsey, he actually continues to trend forward with a serviceable week. And Wan'Dale Robinson continues to eat up targets, and especially if Malik Neighbors doesn't play this week. So bigger week if Neighbors doesn't play, but if he plays, a mid week for Wan'Dale Robinson. So, predictions, a low-scoring game between the Groundhogs and Empire, but in an 8-point spread. Give me the Empire Strikes Back to get it done. I think injuries, bye weeks really hurting the Groundhogs. Andy Dalton not helping that point total. And Saquon Barkley, just a workhorse. He's healthier off the bye week. Give me Barkley for a big game. Matchup number 3, Rough Riders against the Bunnies. This might be one of the best matchups of the week. Not the game of the week, but it's really darn close. Rough Riders, Anthony Richardson, if he plays, I think has a better than 10-point week. He did it in week 1, and then after it was not good and got injured. How about an above 10-point week, but nothing spectacular? Kind of a disappointing week from Anthony Richardson. Just be happy he's healthy. And how about Josh Allen returning to form with a monster week? And we'll get right to your turning point player. It's Joe Mixon. You traded for him from the Bandicoots for Jamar Chase. There's 41 points last week you didn't get. Joe Mixon has not played a game for you. This might be one of the worst trades in league history. If Joe Mixon plays this week, he has a great week. If he doesn't, this continues to be a terrible trade. This is the swaying point for me on this game. If Joe Mixon plays, this is a great performance. If he doesn't, yikes. Watch out. Drake London has a good game, though, and I think he gets serviceable from Devontae Smith, Ferguson, and Williams. Funny enough, we get the matchup of 2 Eagles receivers. On the other side, for the Bunnies, that's the turning point player. A.J. Brown might play this week. He's in the lineup, and he is the Bunnies' turning point player. So Devontae Smith on one side, A.J. Brown on the other. He's missed a couple weeks from injury. Does he return to form instantly? I think him and Jalen Hurts have to reestablish that connection. So a slow, disappointing, very mid-week from A.J. Brown in his, second week of play and first week returning from injury for the Bunnies. C.J. Stroud has a big week. Poor week from Danny Dimes. Derrick Henry, though, plays well. And Tony Pollard having to slide in for the bye week and injured Aaron Jones plays serviceable, with Laporta maybe getting in the end zone this week against Dallas, finally looking semi-good. And Jaden Reed has another great game along with Kami Fairburn for the Packers and then Kami Fairburn for the Texans. So, battle of the Eagles receivers in a 1 to less than 1 point spread. Give me the Bay City Bunnies. And the only reason I am taking the Bunnies is because Joe Mixon has not been healthy. Joe Mixon is the monster swaying point for this game. If he plays, I think the Rough Riders could pull this out. But I don't know if he's even going to play this week. So give me the Bay City Bunnies. 2 players returning in Mixon and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown and the Bunnies get the last laugh with a less than 1 point victory. So we're already through 3 matchups, moving with a little pace. Let's get you the top of the leaderboard. It's Iguanas and Avengers duking it out in what should be a monster clash of a matchup. But some players missing on some key sides due to bye week or injury. So we'll start with the Iguanas. Hurts and Burrow, a dynamic quarterback duo. Hurts coming off a bye week. How about both of them to have 20-plus point weeks? I think big weeks due ahead. Kamara struggles a little bit against the Bucs, but plays serviceable. And David Montgomery continues to have a monster end zone eating week against the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb gets back on track versus a sketchy Detroit secondary, and your turning point player, Brandon Ayuk. What is going on with Brandon Ayuk? Because he finally had a good game last week against Arizona. Before that, he's practically been irrelevant. So that is why he's your turning point player. Does he continue trending forward, or does he take another step back? I think he just plays mid. Brock Bowers continues to be a solid tight end. T. Higgins has a monster game against a lesser opponent, so big things coming there. On the other side, for the Avengers, no Patrick Mahomes, so you turn to Justin Herbert. Boy, Justin Herbert, your turning point player. is projected 10. You heard me, 10 fantasy points. That's crazy. Justin Herbert last year, the year before, was a really sought-after fantasy quarterback. Now, because of the new offense, they want to run the football. Justin Herbert, not a lot of love in fantasy. I think he plays just around that 10-point range. And same with Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to have that tough game against Buffalo on Monday Night Football. No true head coach. They struggle. So, two quarterbacks not playing great, but your running backs save you. Breece Hall gets back on track. New coach, guess what? They're going to want to run the rock a little bit more. And Jahmyr Gibbs has a good game against Dallas. Your wide receivers, Evans and Metcalf, play serviceable. And DJ Moore has another trending up game with Caleb Williams throwing him the ball. But in an 8-point spread, give me the Ithaca Iguanas in an 8-point spread to take down the Michigan Avengers. I think a couple bye weeks, a couple missing pieces, that QB room not really helping you out, and Cole Kmet at that tight end position. Don't know how I feel about it. On the other side for the Iguanas, big things from the quarterback, big things from the running back, and another big game from CeeDee Lamb. So, 4 matchups. Let's get you that last one, the 5th matchup. And the game of the week, it's 2 teams that are on fire. The Zestmeisters versus the Brisbane Bay Bandicoots, 2 teams that have no slowing down in their future, but it has to happen this week. Bandicoots have not lost since week 1. Zestmeisters have been the top scorer the past 2 weeks. Obviously, no Nico Collins this week. Does that play a factor? This is going to be a high-scoring one. Let's get into it. For the Zestmeisters, Lamar and Cousins. Cousins, a great matchup this week. Big points for him. Lamar, not 20-plus points, but hovering around there against the Commanders team. Hubbard and Kenneth Walker have some pretty solid games. Hubbard, great game. He's been a diamond in the rough. Great waiver wire pickup. Along with Mason, who's at the flex position, I think he has a good week as well. Walker against a tough 49ers defense. Not great, but not terrible. And then we get to your wide receivers. Pickens plays mid. Who's throwing him the ball? Is it Russ or Fields? We'll find out. Your turning point player, Chris Olave. We have not seen him feel like the number 1 target. It's been more like Rashid Shaheed. I need to see Chris Olave, the number 1 receiver in that room that we all know he is. He has not really been the focal point of this offense. We need to see that a little more. And now the Zestmeisters need that a little bit more with no Nico Collins. George Kittle has another great game, and then Eagles defense and Younghoe Koo get you some more points. So big week for the Zestmeisters. While do the Bandicoots match? I think they keep pace. Love, Murray, Bijan. Great games from the 3-headed monster at the top of this one. DeAndre Swift plays serviceable. I don't think he has another 20-plus game that he's been having, but he plays serviceable. Malik Neighbors, a monster game, back from injury if healthy. And how about the top scorer of the week? Last week, Jamar Chase. How about back-to-back top scorers of the week? Give me Jamar Chase against a terrible New York Giants team to have another top scorer of the week performance. I'm talking 30, maybe another 40 bomb. Then we look at the other side to your turning point player, Jacoby Myers. Welcome to the lineup. Do I think he plays great? Not necessarily, but is he the best option at receiver with Devontae Adams out? Absolutely. Who's throwing him the ball? Is it Minshew? Is it O'Connell? We'll find out. A lot of question marks with him, but I do think because he is the number 1 option outside of Brock Bowers, he plays pretty serviceable this week. But in a 10-plus point spread in the game of the week, a high-scoring game, these teams would probably win in a lot of other matchups. Give me the Brisbane Bay Bandicoots to pull off another big win. They haven't lost, and they'll continue not to lose since week 1 as they defeat the high-scoring, red-hot Zestmeisters to improve to 5-1. So those are all of my predictions for this week. Bandicoots win in the game of the week. Iguanas win in a slugfest. Bunnies win by the skin of their teeth. Empire and Cave Shrimp gets much-needed wins. Those are my predictions. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How's your team doing? Do you agree with my takes? Do we think Jamar Chase can go back-to-back top scorers of the week? All that and more on the next episode on the Nathan Sports Talks channel. Until then, we'll see you real soon.